Chelsea and US men's star Christian Pulisic went down with a pretty nasty looking leg injury at the opening of the second half in the FA Cup final. Welcome back everyone, I'm Dr. Brian Sutterer, and this is your #1 source for learning about everything related to sports injuries and sports medicine news. In this video, we're going to be breaking down what happened with Christian Pulisic, talking about the differential, how this injury occurred here on this specific play, and the implications going forward. If you enjoy learning about this unique side of sports, then please consider subscribing and be sure and go follow me on Twitter for more real-time injury breakdowns and analysis. His injury occurred right at the open of the second half, and although he was able to get a shot off, we could see that he was in some pretty significant pain from his facial expressions before he actually let off the shot. Now, just based on where Pulisic grabs and the mechanism here, we of course would suspect a hamstring injury being at the top of our differential. But also knowing that Pulisic had a history of this adductor injury earlier in the year, and their similar mechanisms, we have to leave that up in the differential as well. Going to the anatomy here, in the hamstring muscle group, we have 3 different muscles. They all originate up on a bone called the ischial tuberosity from the pelvis, and they travel down across the knee joint to insert on the tibia and the fibula. The inner 2 or medial hamstring muscles are the semitendinosus and the semimembranosus, and then the outer hamstring muscle is the biceps femoris with both a long head and a short head. Between the 3 hamstring muscles, the biceps femoris is the one that's most often injured, and it's often at an area called the myotendinous junction, which is kind of here where the tendon and the muscles sort of merge and meet up together. Of course, the injury can also be more of a strain in the muscle belly itself, or you can have an avulsion injury where the tendon actually rips away from its origin on the bone, which is going to be a much more serious and longer absence. Now, if we add on the adductor muscles, those also originate up on the pelvis in a similar location, but run down in the medial or inner portion of the thigh. Remember that Pulisic was dealing with a pretty significant adductor injury, and as you can see on the pictures here, these muscles all kind of run around in the same area on that medial kind of posterior thigh. Now, when the medical staff is doing their physical exam and evaluation, it'll be easy to distinguish between if it's an adductor injury and a hamstring injury, but we've got to keep the adductor muscles in mind just because of a similar mechanism and where they are on the body, as well as his previous injury. Talking specifically about hamstring injuries, there's 2 major types that we will see. The first type is going to be when somebody is sprinting and they get a tear of the hamstring muscle at the end of their terminal swing phase. The other type is when the muscle just gets overstretched. Think of what like a gymnast would do whenever they're in their different positions. The specific time point where the hamstring injury usually occurs is right at the end of the terminal swing phase where the leg is swinging outward, getting ready to plant on the ground. As Pulisic's leg here is swinging out forward, his hamstring muscle is eccentrically contracting to try to slow down the velocity of his tibia and leg moving forward. So even though his leg is moving forward here, his hamstring muscle is firing to sort of control and slow down that movement. Then, as soon as the foot plants, now the hamstring muscle has to all of a sudden contract and squeeze really hard to pull that leg through and get the body moving forward. So at this time, the hamstring is already lengthened and trying to maximally contract, which predisposes it to getting torn. Now, an adductor strain is usually going to happen when there's some forced or resisted adduction where the leg is trying to be brought back in towards the body. Think about if Pulisic was going to kick the ball, and as his right leg swung forward, he suddenly ran up against another player's foot. That forced adduction of those muscles firing would predispose them to getting torn. The interesting thing here is if we look at sort of the frontal view of when he got injured, it does seem to be around this time where he sort of is planting off his right foot to have a little bit of a direction change. When he plants on that right foot to cut, that's going to cause those adductor muscles to fire and could also contribute to a possible adductor injury if that's what in fact occurred here. If he were running just in a straight line, I wouldn't expect the adductor muscles to be injured, but it's this slight little plant and push off with his right foot that makes me think we still have to keep this up on the differential. In terms of when we'll see Pulisic back out on the pitch in top form, I definitely don't think this is going to be just a week or weeks long sort of injury. When we look at studies of high-level sprinters, it's usually around 16 weeks before we see them back to their top performance before they had the injury. I wouldn't expect him to be back for their upcoming Champions League game, and certainly I'd be thinking here on the order of weeks to months, likely more on the end of months in terms of when he's back to his usual form. So that's it for the video, everybody. Thank you as always for watching. I hope you learned something here. Let me know any questions or comments down below. And until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.